as we bask in the afterglow of WrestleMania. Of course, now the first full week, almost 10 days since the big event in Philadelphia. And on top of that, AEW with their own pay-per-view coming up, Dynasty. And to help me break it all down, joining me on the hotline from Cageside Seats, Rick Ucchino. Rick, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, Stu. How are you? I appreciate you bringing me in.
I'm good, man. It's so like I said, you come off the biggest weekend in wrestling,
Yep.
and all of a sudden, hey, AEW Dynasty coming up on Sunday from St. Louis. Are you going to St. Louis?
I am not. No. I only have so many vacation days from the shoot radio job. I got to use them sporadically, but I always make sure I go to the Rumble and WrestleMania every year. So those typically take a big bite out of my vacation time and my budget. And I'm not used to AEW having an April pay-per-view, so I guess we're gonna have to get used to this as they expand their pay-per-view
You're
schedule.
right. Just out of curiosity, I worked in sports radio for 15 years. What's the shoot radio job?
So I am the morning news anchor for 700 WLW in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And on top of that, I do work for ESPN 1530, our sister station, covering the Bengals and filling in on air hosting and things of that nature as well. So
Very nice. Very nice. We used to have a 1530 when we were ESPN Austin way back in the day.
Oh.
So there you go, a little synergy there. All right, so let's talk about this pay-per-view. Before we get to the pay-per-view though, it was showing I was recording last Wednesday right about the time they were showing the All In backstage footage. So
yeah.
back and watched it. Um a I outside of Tony Khan's beef with CM Punk or whatever, I have no clue what this was supposed to accomplish. Two things that we figured out. Number one, CM Punk did make the first move. Number two, wasn't exactly a it wasn't exactly a brawl. It was more of a 6-second shoving match.
Stu, I've seen worse on a baseball field. I have seen a grown man literally run and throw himself at the entire Pittsburgh Pirates dugout. I have seen a man drop kick another man in the face wearing baseball cleats. I've seen a dude cross check somebody on an NHL ice with his stick and knock teeth out. I have seen so much worse that has gotten zero fanfare in the eyes of the mainstream media after like 2 days. That this whole thing is what it ended up being. And the thing that's like remarkable to me about this is that so many people can watch the same piece of footage and see something completely different, because what I see is what Punk told Ariel Helwani happened verbatim, like almost completely down to the T of what he said happened is exactly what happened in the footage. And I agree with you. I have no clue what this was supposed to accomplish, unless it's to set up a big angle for Jack Perry to return, in which case you can't really pay that off because Punk is in another company. They're using this to fuel the FTR Young Bucks rivalry, and they had nothing to do with the fight. So I don't know what the point of this was at all. I don't know.
And on top of that, it's not like you need to fuel anything between the Young Bucks and FTR.
No.
The two best tag teams in AEW, arguably two of the best tag teams on the planet. Why show this footage to quote juice up that rivalry? That it wasn't needed. Like you said, if it's to lead to Jack Perry coming back to AEW television, okay, but again, no payoff because CM Punk's over in WWE. So,
right,
it felt like a cheap ratings ploy, quite honestly. and they looked like they got a slight bump in the ratings, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. I don't think obviously the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
I mean, Tony Khan felt he needed to put that out there. So here's my bottom line on it. Cool. We saw it. I don't think it accomplished anything, but it's out there. It's done. It's over with. Hopefully everybody involved can find some peace of mind. We can move on and we can focus on the good things that AEW is doing right now, because there's a lot of good things that's going on within the company. Even if new wrestling fans aren't finding the product right now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. One of those new things, John Moxley in Chicago, Windy City Riot, defeats Tetsuya Naito. He is now the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He is the first man to win world titles in WWE, AEW, and New Japan. First, apparently they do not like Naito having long title reigns, because this is his second run. I think this one might have been shorter than the first, and the first wasn't that long.
Yeah.
So there's that. But now you've got two of your top champions in New Japan Pro Wrestling are contracted to AEW, with John Moxley and Eddie Kingston still the NJPW Strong Openweight Champion.
Yeah.
I get the whole Forbidden Door thing. You know, you got the Forbidden Door pay-per-view coming up in June, and I get that, but man, they are, and look, they rely a lot on their relationships with other promotions, with TNA, with Major League Wrestling, but man, it looks like they are really leaning on that relationship with AEW.
They are, and maybe this is a way that they can use Moxley to kind of crown somebody else, because New Japan's lost a lot of their top end talent, and they've lost them to AEW. I mean, there are so many people that, under the AEW flag for Forbidden Door that's coming up, that would have been under the New Japan Pro Wrestling flag last year. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but maybe they can use John Moxley here to build up their, I don't know out of the roster off the top of my head, but whoever their next guy is that they want to lean heavily into, maybe they can give him a big rub by beating Moxley at Forbidden Door for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. But this was a very surprising title change. But at the same time, let's recognize John Moxley, who he was kind of in character in the interview that he gave, but I also believe it to be true. Like, he's one of the most underrated performers and professional wrestlers of the last 20 years. Like, the guy is very good. He's definitely left his mark on the business. Cincinnati's own John Moxley, by the way, so he'll always have a special place with the hometown connection. But yeah, he's great. This is a big title win for him, and it's going to be interesting to see how this now balances out on AEW programming, because now you have another major world championship that you're interjecting onto the TV screen, in addition to the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship and the AEW World Title.
Yeah, you're right.
A lot of belts in AEW.
A lot of belts. And yes, you're right. All the props in the world to John Moxley. He is, you talk about someone that since he left WWE, has really claimed his stake in the wrestling world with what he has done with AEW, with New Japan, with GCW, with other promotions, and it's cool to watch. It really is, and you got to tip your cap to John for everything he has done, and he's getting rewarded again with his IWGP World Title stint. We'll see what happens. I believe his first title defense is coming up in a few weeks against Ren Narita. I will be interested to see who they line up to eventually take that title from him. And you're right, the exodus of talent from New Japan, to AEW, a little bit to WWE with Tama Tonga going over there.
Yeah.
They've got it. New Japan's got some stuff to figure out as far as their talent. Interesting that they named Rocky Romero. Was it vice? It was. I want to say it was vice president of like talent relations or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, so so now you got Rocky Romero as the vice president. You got Hiroshi Tanahashi as president. how much can they curb the exodus of talent and maybe even attract talent to sign with New Japan?
Yeah, I have no clue. I genuinely have no idea. But I mean, there are a lot of wrestlers out there whose dream it's been to always go out to Japan. I mean, you look at somebody like a Mercedes Monet who literally threw down her sword and walked out of the company and said, "Hey, I'm going to go live out my dream and live my best life, and I'm going to go wrestle in Japan for a while." So I think there's still the allure, the romanticism with wrestling in Japan for a lot of pro wrestlers that I don't think they'll have a problem getting talent. But it's they're definitely in a transition period for sure.
Yeah, they are. All right, let's get to AEW Dynasty again this Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, from the Chaffetz Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. And because of the, let's just call it a disaster of Revolution on Bleacher Report, it's available everywhere in every country. So even the United States, Triller TV, PPV TV, as well as all across the world. As of right now, they've got 8 matches booked.
Yeah.
The main event, Samoa Joe's defending that AEW World Title against Swerve
Is that the
Strickland.
main event? Is that
Well,
the main event?
you know that it's okay. I'm an old
It
school
should be the
guy.
main event.
Right. I'm an old school guy. The world title should always, should be the main event. I could see where the ladder match with Young Bucks and FTR could end up being the main event. But let's talk about that world title match with Swerve and Joe. Um, Samoa Joe's had the championship for 4 months now. Is it going to be a short reign, or I mean, do they pull the trigger on a Swerve Strickland title reign, or do they make everybody wait?
I feel like if it's not now, it's when, kind of a situation with Swerve Strickland and does it ever happen? I feel like he's the kind of guy, and I love Samoa Joe. Like, I think Samoa Joe is the most physically imposing performer in all professional wrestling right now. Like, I had a chance to talk to Swerve last week for 1530, and like, you know, yeah, the outcomes are predetermined, but being in the ring with Joe is it takes a lot out of you. And Swerve says he's gotten his ass whooped by Joe over the last few months, even going back to that triple threat match at Revolution that we were both at earlier this year. But yeah, it's man, I feel like it's his time. I feel like he's hot enough. The crowd is behind him, and you need that ultra white hot baby face that can really help draw in the ratings and elevate the company. And I think Swerve is an AEW guy through and through. His WWE tenure, he's talked about that before, about how he's never really had the backing of anybody there. He was constantly begging Triple H for opportunities, and they just never seemed to come. And then he gets up to the main roster, and he's there for like a cup of coffee, and then they're letting him go. Um, I think this is a guy who's hungry. He's out to prove himself. He's a company guy through and through. I not every title run needs to be an endurance test like we've seen recently. The MJFs and the Roman Reigns and the Rhea Ripleys and the Seth Rollins. I mean, we don't need these big, long 600, 500, 1,400 day title reigns. Becky Lynch is somebody who's proven that you can hold a title for 5 weeks and it can still be effective. It's all about what you do within the reigns. So I don't think Joe's had a couple of big wins under his belt. He won the championship. Great for him. I think they should pull the trigger on Swerve. I don't know if they do though.
Yeah, I'm there with you. It feels like they always say you go with what you go with the hot hand, and Swerve Strickland right now is the hot hand. But yeah, I think there's enough there to make you think Samoa Joe may retain, and he may keep it for a little bit. I don't know if it's a matter of they're waiting for MJF to come back, or if they've got another feud in line, if it's Hangman or somebody else. But I don't know.
MJF is the wild card.
Yeah,
MJF is the wild card. But like even if Samoa Joe's not the champion when he's healthy enough to come back, the story with MJF is still Adam Cole. Like that, whenever they are both, the problem is they're both off TV because they're both still hurt. So that whole thing got completely derailed by Adam Cole's foot injury and then the myriad of injuries that MJF is dealing with. So even if Joe's not the champion when MJF comes back, there's still a reason in the story that he can exact his revenge before he goes back after the AEW title, whomever has it at that point.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's talk Young Bucks FTR. The winner becomes the AEW World Tag Team titles. You and I saw, Sting and Darby Allin retain those titles, and then we heard right after it that Tony Khan vacated those titles.
Yeah.
Sting's retirement. I can see a case for either team winning. It does feel a little like, I think it does lean a little towards the Young Bucks, if for no other reason. I think it could be, there might be a few more interesting stories with the Young Bucks playing up the EVP roles. Although I'm not a fan of, for lack of better term, heel authority figures. I think that has been played out so much that we are past that. But having the Bucks as these, schmarmy EVP and now put the tag titles on them, I think that could have some fun. At the same time, I can easily see FTR cementing their position, and then have the Young Bucks, just wreak havoc on FTR's title run. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, so I like what I hear you on the heel authority figure role. Like as soon as like the authority in WWE was over with, I'm like, all right, I'm kind of cool if I never see that again. But what the Bucks are doing, it's almost like they've taken that trope and they've turned it on themselves, like turned it on its head. It's like they're being a parody of that, a very self-aware parody of what they're supposed to do. As heel authority figures. And I like that they're kind of molding that EVP role into it. I think they need a win. They lose to FTR the last time. They lose to Sting and Darby Allin. And that was one of the big things that I did not like. Really, the only thing that I didn't like about the Sting retirement tour is that they put the titles on Sting and Darby Allin just for them to retain them and then have to relinquish them after a month and a half or however long they had it, and sacrifice Big Bill and Ricky Stark's title run in the process. So I think FTR also needs a win though, because they lost to Blackpool Combat Club. So it's really weird. Neither one of these two teams had any kind of like real momentum heading into this tournament that Tony Khan put together, and these are the two that end up in the finals. I feel like it's the Young Bucks. I feel like it's their turn, and I feel like they could do more right now with this EVP role and kind of reign supreme over the tag team division until maybe somebody like the Motor City Machine Guns or somebody like that comes in and knocks them off the top.
Yeah. What do you think about the theory of, we were talking about Jack Perry earlier. What do you think of the theory of Jack Perry showing up to help the Young Bucks win the titles?
That would at least make I'd be for that, because that would tie in the storyline and the footage and everything. That would make something that was nonsensical at least make a little bit of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd be for that. Fine. I think there's a lot of people who are kind of looking at that footage and the fact that Tony Khan decided to air that as a jab to CM Punk, who had been going, okay, well, why was Jack Perry suspended then? If this was, CM Punk going, all rogue and he's the a-hole in this situation, why was Jack Perry suspended? Why have we not seen him since All In last year? And Jack Perry, is not innocent in this. I think, looking back at it, he's got a little bit of growing up to do. Obviously, he and Punk did not see eye to eye, and he felt he needed to express his disagreements out in a public forum, and it led to all of this. So, but maybe he's learned something. He's had a good run Outside of AEW, people are talking about him. He's a hot commodity. It might be buzzworthy enough for Tony Khan to bring him back and insert him into this picture.
Yeah. Tony Storm defending the AEW Women's World Title against Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa was never pinned for the title. She had to give it up because of her injuries. And look, I love Thunder Rosa to death. She lives right down I-35 from me in San Antonio. But look, Tony Storm she's got it going. I see no reason to take the title off of her just yet.
Yeah, she's arguably the best character in wrestling right now. I don't know. I don't know where all this HLA, let's call it, with Mariah May and everything that this love triangle that they got go. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know whose idea it was. I still haven't decided how I feel about it. I think I still got a bad taste in my mouth for all of the, attitude era stuff that we're just doing this to objectify women. But if there's a storyline here, okay, I might be on board with it. But she's absolutely batshit insane in the best way possible. Like she has taken this character and she has developed her own cinematic universe around herself. And the way that AEW has been able to incorporate her in this whole film noir essence that she walks out there with, it's very like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where it's like she's just walking in her own cartoon, universe that's out in the middle of the open for the rest of us to view in public. It's great. I love Thunder Rosa as well. I also had a chance to chat with her. That's a conversation that'll be available on Cageside Seats this week, as well as my conversation with Swerve. I'll have a little recap there as well. But I feel like there's going to be some shenanigans here because it's not just Tony and it's not just Thunder Rosa that's involved. You got Deonna Purrazzo who's involved in this. You have Mariah May who could get involved, and who else might show up and get involved in this. Luther might play a role as well. I feel like Tony Storm is going to retain via some shenanigans for sure. This has all the makings of major shenanigans.
Yeah, I think you're right. And by the way, as if anybody could tell, she has consulted with the original cinematic character in Goldust, aka the natural Dustin Rhodes. Dustin and I have talked about that quite a bit, and he's given her some pointers. So, and you can see a little bit of it. You can see a little Goldust in her. It's really cool.
She's only like what 25 too, something like that. Like she is performing well beyond her years right now. Like she's got it, and she's got something that's going to work. This is something when she first started doing it, I'm like, okay, this is cute. It's going to have a short shelf life, but it's going to be cute. She's been able to extend it and keep it interesting. So good for her.
I agree. Let's see. You got Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson.
Here's your main event, by the way.
Yeah,
this is the main event of the night.
That's going to be match of the night, I think, and I don't think it's going to be close. Again, this is one of those cases where I can see either one going over. If for no other reason, then let's just see. I think the story is there for either man. Just give me your thoughts on American Dragon versus the Aerial Assassin.
Yeah, this is the match that's going to sell me a ticket, right? Like like you could tell me, oh, you're booking Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. Stop talking. I've bought the ticket. Like I don't need to know what else is on the rest of the card. Whatever it is, it's gravy on top of the mashed potatoes. I think Bryan promised all of us the most epic year that he has left before he's done as a full-time wrestler. I think it makes all the sense in the world for Bryan to put Ospreay over in this situation, unless they're going to run this back and we're going to get two of them and Ospreay can get his win back. But Will's just now coming into AEW as a full-time competitor, and he's a guy that the company really could throw their back on. Like I was genuinely impressed with him in the Revolution press conference. He is charming. He is quick-witted. He is funny. and just seems like a genuinely nice dude, but also one that will slit your throat and smile while he's doing it when he's out in the ring. Like, he is an absolute killer. Um, he can be intimidating. He's a total package, man. It makes a ton of sense for me to put Osprey over in this situation, because I think for Brian, and this is just me speculating, I haven't had a chance to chat with him, but I kind of feel like he just wants to go out there and put on awesome performances and just give it everything he's got inside the ring. I don't think wins and losses really matter for him at this point in his career. He just wants to put on GOAT level matches and remind people just how good he is. And I think he can do that and still have Will Ospreay go over in the end, which, if one of them's going to be wrestling next year and one of them's not, I think you put the other guy over.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do agree. The other match is Julia Hart defending the TBS Championship against Willow Nightingale. Roderick Strong defending the international title against Kyle O'Reilly. That'll be a good one. That'll be an interesting one. Does it feel like they may have pulled the trigger a little quick on the whole Kyle O'Reilly, is not going to be part of the of Undisputed Kingdom?
Yeah, it did. It kind of felt like TK wanted to put one more banger match on the card, and he's like, let's just go ahead and do this. And they do the angle on a Saturday night in Highland Heights, Kentucky, with 2,000 people in attendance. Like, I don't know. It felt like they could have done that in a bigger spot and built up some more heat for this and get people more invested. Like, they were really kind of doing a slow burn with all of this. And then, it just kind of felt like, Roddy's like, screw this. Why play games anymore? Let's just go. You want a shot at my title? Let's have it. I feel like they could have done a much slower burn, or they could have just done an angle here where, Roddy just gave Kyle a title shot because he wanted one, because they're friends, right? And then he goes out there and he cheats he cheats Kyle out of the match. Mm-hmm. Kyle hasn't won and he cheats him out of the match, and then that starts the rift between the two. And then you start to build up to the point where they, go at each other and they hate each other, and it becomes a personal rivalry. It just seems like they did kind of pull the trigger a little too quick. Not to gloss over Willow and Julia, by the way. If I was going to put any money down on a title change happening, I think it would be that match. I think Willow and Mercedes for Double or Nothing for the TBS title is signed, sealed, and delivered as long as Mercedes is good to go. I know there's some speculation she's not medically cleared to compete yet, which is why we haven't seen her compete yet in AEW, which scratches my head why they brought her in this early, but I digress.
Yeah, no, I get that, and that makes total sense. If that's the goal you want, you pull the trigger now, have Willow get that title, and then Mercedes gets her win back from when Willow pinned her when she got injured for the Strong women's title. So and then you got the trios match, House of Black taking on Adam Copeland, Mark Briscoe, and Eddie Kingston. This feels like it could be the opener to really set the tone. It could be a lot of fun. Make the case for House of Black going over, because for some reason I'm having a hard time with it.
I don't see it, honestly. I don't see House of Black. I don't see a case for House of Black to go over. Because for me, the money in the build has to be Malachi versus Adam Copeland for the TNT title sometime down the line, whether it's Double or Nothing. And I would hope at that point they finally freaking pull the trigger and do something with Malachi Black. This is a guy they've had for a while. This is a guy that signed, I believe, a 5-year extension not that long ago, along with Adam Cole. I think Moxley and Adam Cole are all in the company till 2026, 2027. So, I mean, he's going to be one of the longest tenured guys in AEW unless he gets a release. But it would be nice to see them do something of substance with him, because so far it's been a lot of smoke and mirrors. They had that trios title run, and then it kind of ended, and then it's just been, oh, hey, we're badasses that have a really cool entrance, but we don't win big matches, and I don't see them winning this one either. I think the baby faces go over.
Yeah, I think so too. It's AEW Dynasty this Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Get it on Bleacher Report, Triller TV, PPV.com, He'll come to us from the Chaffetz Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. Let's switch gears, go talk WWE. And we got to talk about what happened Friday night on SmackDown. You had the Bloodline. Well, what's left of the Bloodline in the ring.
Yeah.
Solo, Paul Heyman, and Jimmy. Solo saying wins and losses matter. He hugs Jimmy, tells him he loves him. And then a hooded figure attacks Jimmy, and it ends up being Tama Tonga,
Yeah.
the former multiple-time IWGP Tag Team Champion, multiple-time never openweight champion. And so now it looks like Tama Tonga is a member of the Bloodline. Give me your thoughts on one half of the Gorillas of Destiny now in WWE.
Yeah, I like it. I think it was a necessary move to progress the Bloodline story forward. And this is an analogy I used earlier today when I was on another show. It definitely feels like the Bloodline has entered phase two. Like for MCU fans out there, right? Like we just wrapped up the first Avengers movie as far as the Bloodline is concerned, and now we are starting phase two. And that means it's now time to insert new characters. And here comes Tama Tonga, and here comes, Fatu is reportedly going to be showing up in some way, shape, or form. And now you can have characters who were bad guys, right? Like Winter Soldier, and now all of a sudden, in let's just say Jimmy Uso's Winter Soldier, and now he can kind of turn back and be a good guy, and we work towards the Usos reunion. And there's a lot of different snakes and paths that this storyline with the Bloodline could go, but it's a necessary move that needs to be made because if this storyline is going to have long-term success, it can't always center around Roman Reigns. It can't always center around, I say always because The Rock just showed up in this story, but The Rock's not going to be around forever. So this is the phase of the Bloodline storyline where you introduce new characters and you start to establish them. And by the time that Roman Reigns is ready to not be this version of a full-time performer, when The Rock is finally done in the ring, these guys can take center stage. And I think that's what you're starting to see with Solo Sikoa, is because he said that this was by order of the tribal chief. We don't know if that was Roman Reigns. We don't know if that was The Rock, or if this is Solo Sikoa saying, hey, look, wins and losses matter, right? Well, Roman Reigns lost. I was the tribal chief heir apparent. So now I'm the tribal chief, and I'm the one who's giving the orders around here. So we could be heading for an all-out Bloodline civil war, or some kind of like if you get Jimmy and Jay involved in the draft could really shake things up as well. And you can get both the Usos back on the same brand and slowly build toward those guys getting back together. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we've definitely entered a different phase and a needed change for the Bloodline.
Does Roman Reigns come back as a babyface? I've heard that theory a couple times. Tell me what you think.
I think it would make logical sense because that man got cheered out of the building and he wasn't even there the Monday night after Raw. Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. This is the same city that booed him out of the building, ruined his Royal Rumble win. They had no respect for Roman Reigns back then. Roman Reigns is now getting the respect of the WWE Universe for this title run now being over. They realize how great it was, how great he is. And, once the fans kind of accept you and appreciate you and look at you as one of the greatest of all time, I feel like you're going to get that acknowledgement, pun intended, right? Like he's going to be, whenever he comes back, which I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but whenever he comes back, he's going to get that John Cena, Kurt Angle, Undertaker, Rock type, first came back, Rock type reaction where it's going to be, you're going to get a large babyface reaction because the fans are happy to see you because they know, you're a great performer. You've established yourself as one of the greatest of all time, and some cool stuff's about to go down.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's going to be a few months before we see Roman come back, but
Solo's got to wreak some havoc first. Solo's got to wreak some havoc.
Yeah, it's got to be Solo and Tama, and if he is coming in, Jacob Fatu, have him wreak havoc as well.
Yeah,
let them just wreck shop, and then maybe reunite Roman and the Usos on the babyface side, and then, like you said, Bloodline
Yeah.
Civil War. Let it go.
Roman and the Usos versus Solo, Jacob and Tama Tonga, maybe at SummerSlam. Maybe that's the big matchup.
That'd be a good one. I'd tune in to see that one. We've got this coming Friday. LA Knight and AJ Styles will face each other. The winner gets Cody Rhodes at Backlash in France on May 4. If you know, I guess WrestleMania almost felt like a blow off, but they decided to run it back one more time. And this feels like AJ's going to get his win back. What do you think?
I think so. I don't think it would make any sense from a booking perspective to have LA Knight go up against Cody Rhodes as his first challenger, because LA Knight is not going to win. Let's be honest. Whomever it is taking the L against Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is not going to go through all of this malarkey over the last 2 years and lose in his first title defense. It's just not happening. And they can't have LA Knight lose another world title match or a WWE title match after he was unable to beat Roman Reigns, albeit due to shenanigans. It's going to be interesting to see how Styles gets the win, because I don't think it's going to be clean. I think LA Knight proved he was the better guy at WrestleMania. The way that LA Knight, by the way, won the triple threat match was such a, pun intended, phenomenal finish, with him catching Ray and then doing the off the top rope Styles Clash on top of Kevin Owens to get the win in that matchup. So it was a good win for him, because he hasn't been winning a lot of matches. He's in the best shape of his life. He can obviously still go. I think he and Cody will put on a heck of a show in France, and he can take the L, as this new just piece of crap heel that he's been portraying. It's just going to be interesting to see how he goes over on LA Knight on Friday.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we've seen both on SmackDown and Monday Night on Raw the screen glitches.
Yeah,
getting the little teases that we're gonna get some, whether it's Uncle Howdy, whether it's some form of, the Wyatt family, whatever. If you were to put money on it, who return? Is it just Uncle Howdy, or are we going to see Uncle Howdy and friends? And who are those friends?
I think you have to have and friends. I don't know, and this may not be fair of me to say. I just don't know if Bo Dallas coming back and trying to carry on his brother's legacy is going to be successful, because I've never seen Bo try to play that role. I've never seen him try to be, that overly creative and charismatic and try to carry out a role like that. We maybe we were going to be getting into that with the Uncle Howdy thing before Bray unfortunately fell ill. I just don't. I think it's an awful lot to ask Bo to come in and carry on his brother's story and man, make it successful. Like I just don't know if that's a winning formula. I give them all the credit in the world for giving it a shot and seeing if it can work. And I don't know if he's going to be Uncle Howdy, if he's going to be some new version of Bo Dallas. If he's going to come in and he's going to take the name Wyatt, I don't know, but I feel like he would have a better chance if there were some familiar friends along the way to kind of help him. Somebody that the Bray Wyatt hardcore fans like myself were invested in. Somebody like an Eric Rowan, who did cancel a lot of his independent bookings, which people are looking at. Okay, maybe he's re-signed to come back to WWE. Maybe Braun Strowman, if he's healthy enough to come back, or at least he can be some kind of an on-screen character until he is ready. Braun Strowman is a guy who has been vastly underutilized in WWE, by the way. Just talking to that guy in person, he has a ball of charisma. He's got a great personality. Like, I don't him just being typecast as the big monster, I'm gonna smash you. Like, it's just vastly underutilized his personality. I think he's so much more than that. And then if she's ready to come back, I think Alexa Bliss makes a ton of sense. Raw is in Columbus next week. She's from Columbus. That'd be a great place to bring her back. She's been posting the workout photos. She appears to be in great shape. I don't know if she's ready to come back. Just pure speculation on my part, but bringing in those three, I think, would give this a better chance of having long-term success. But I think it's a lot to put on Bo's shoulders to have him come in and not replace his brother, but carry on his legacy. That's a tough ask.
Yeah, I agree. That's, I mean, and even, and I'll be honest, even with, if you have Bo Dallas, Taylor, whatever you, I mean, whatever you want to call him, even if you have him with Eric Rowan and Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss, it's still going to be a tall task because the creative was coming from Bray. Now you don't have that. And I don't know how that's going to proceed. I'll be very interested in seeing. Look, I was, I enjoyed the Wyatt family stuff. I wasn't a fan of the Fiend stuff, but that's just me. But I recognize and respected Bray's creativity in that.
Yeah.
Briefly, in the briefest of moments, met him in Dallas during WrestleMania weekend. And I get the, I understand, I respect the creativity. So to try to move forward with that with Bo Dallas at all, I think that's going to be a task for sure. And I hope they can do it. I really do.
Yeah, no, I wish them all the success, and I hope it is successful. And I've always thought Bo has been an underutilized talent. He's never really had a chance to sink his teeth in, at least on the main roster, into anything meaningful. Like he was a member of the B team, and he was running around screaming, "You got a Bo leave," and all this other stuff. And he's always just had like these really cheesy gimmicks, and then he got put into a comedy tag team, and he had some success. They won the tag team titles, but it's like, I don't know. I just feel like this is a guy that has a lot more to offer, and maybe this is his opportunity to showcase that.
Yeah, you're right. Monday Night on Raw. I mean, just Rhea Ripley comes out, you see her in a sling, and your heart just drops. I mean, I would say probably just about, maybe slightly behind Cody Rhodes, but just about the most over champion in WWE right now.
Sure.
And now she's got to drop the title because of her injury. They're playing it up with the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour and everything. They announced that they'll do something to crown a new women's world champion next week on Raw. But man, I mean, Rhea Ripley, I mean, your heart's got to go out to her after getting her shoulder injured. Just a freak accident from all accounts.
It sucks, and you never want to have a title reign end that way, and you never want to have somebody who has been basically on top of the world for the last year, as Rhea Ripley has, who has established herself as one of like the top stars in the company. And now that Roman Reigns, I've long hypothesized that like once Reigns was out of the picture and he was going to take his time off, Rhea Ripley was going to insert herself as the top star in WWE. She needed that marquee win over Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, and she got it. And now she's alongside Damian Priest, who's the world heavyweight champion. And I know that those two are the closest of friends that you could possibly have, in life. And they were both on top of the world heavyweight champions, careers saved by the Judgment Day. Like Adam Copeland saved both Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest from creative purgatory, with Vince McMahon being at the helm back in the day. Like he was about to screw both those kids up. And I say kids, Damian Priest is older than me, for crying out loud. But he just seems so young. He's just got that young babyface look to him.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks like he's like in his early 30s, and you would never guess he's about 4 or 5 years older than me. But Regardless, it looked like those two were on top of the world, and Judgment Day was about to take its rightful place as the top faction in WWE with the bloodline crumbling. And yeah, this sucks. But I will say, WWE may have lucked out with this storyline that they got here, with the fact that it was Liv Morgan who did the attack. They were obviously setting up for her to be the next challenger anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You had Rhea Ripley and kayfabe cost Liv Morgan 6 months of her career with a shoulder injury. And now Liv Morgan has, since she came back in the Royal Rumble, promised that she was going to take everything away from Rhea Ripley, go on this Liv Morgan revenge tour. And now it sucks that it actually happened, but it's such a great poetic storyline for Liv Morgan to return the favor, blindside Rhea Ripley, injure her shoulder, and cost her several months of her career. I wish it was just storyline, but it's still a great storyline, regardless of the fact that it's actually legitimate, right? So now you have a chance to crown Liv Morgan on Monday, however they're going to do it. You make her the world heavyweight champion. You make her the women's world heavyweight champion because she's already going to be put in this spotlight where she's going to be one of the most hated women in the company for taking mommy out.
Yeah.
So now you give her mommy's belt, and she spends all summer long taunting Rhea Ripley every single chance that she gets and flaunts that title on her shoulder, around her waist, whatever it is. You give Liv Morgan the solidifying title run she should have gotten in the first damn place when she beat Ronda Rousey by cashing in Money in the Bank. And hopefully Rhea Ripley is ready to come back by SummerSlam. And then you have this blood feud hotter than a firecracker ready to go for SummerSlam. This is going to add so much heat to this and solidify Liv Morgan and put her finally in that category of upper echelon performers in the women's division in WWE. I really hope that's the direction that they go in on Monday, and they don't just do kind of like well, Rhea's out, so hey, Becky, what are you doing? You want to come back and hold this world title and make it mean something over the summer? They got a lot of talent on Raw. They don't need to lean on Becky Lynch here. They don't even need to shock the world and bring Alexa Bliss back in Columbus and have her win the world title. It's in my opinion, it's got to be Liv Morgan. Lean on the other talent that you have. Put Liv over. Showcase some of these other ladies, and build up this story and let Liv have fun this summer. And then when Rhea's back, war's on.
Yeah, I like it. I really do. What do you think of the new tag titles? R-Truth and Miz, Awesome Truth, are now the World Tag Team Champions, not just the Raw Tag Team Champions.
I think it was a necessary switch because, I was so happy when they rebranded the women's championships because of stupid title swaps that we would have to do and end title reigns and start new ones because, oh, well, I'm the Raw Women's Champion, but now I'm on SmackDown, so I got to switch the title here. It was so dumb that they branded them that way. Calling them the Women's World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Women's title, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I actually like the uniformity of it with you have the Men's World Heavyweight Championship, you have the Women's World Heavyweight Championship, and now you have the World Tag Team Champions. And they're all the belts are kind of similar but different.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked the tag team titles to stand out maybe a little bit more on their own. It does look a little cookie cutter-ish, just a little bit for my liking, but it's a vast improvement over the Trojan helmet red strap crap that's been going on for a while. I'm happy that they split the tag team titles up because, at a point a couple of years ago, it didn't make any sense whatsoever for there to be two sets of men's tag team titles because Vince McMahon didn't give a damn about the tag team division outside of the Usos, the Street Profits, or the New Day.
Yep.
And Triple H has really come in, and there's been a renaissance in tag team wrestling, and you have teams that are 6, 7, 8 deep on both shows. It was needed. It was badly needed for there to be two sets of tag team titles again, and I think they did a smart way of splitting them up.
It's crazy to think after all those years, but the tag division in WWE, I think it would rival. I think it'd rival Ring of Honor back in the day. I think it would rival New Japan back in the day. Right now, it is as strong as it has ever been, and it has no signs of weakening. I would suspect that on Friday night, Grayson Waller, Austin Theory will get the WWE tag team titles.
Yeah.
To replace the SmackDown tag titles. So,
and I'd wager they'll look a lot like the WWE and WWE women's title belts.
yeah, I think you're right. Sheamus returned. It was good to see him back in the ring. After all these months dealing with injuries and such. Uh, who's the first like serious feud you would put with Sheamus right now?
I genuinely have no idea. Like I don't know what the direction is. I would say I would have brought him back as a heel and immediately put him in Sami Zayn's kitchen, because the only story that makes sense to me, and granted, I don't know what they got cooking there, but Sheamus coming back for the Intercontinental title, the only championship he's never won. That's like the last big storyline, I think, for Sheamus, who's been around for so long, and he's still so good. I mean, the match he had with Ivar, fresh off the disabled list, was great on Monday night. It was a banger, as he would say. Picked right back up where he left off, as far as match quality, several months ago. So I would have thrust him right in there, but the storyline that they got building between Gable now turning heel and Sammy is something I think that can carry the entire summer. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do with Sheamus at this point. Is he a babyface? Is he a heel? Have they really decided? Because we've seen, Triple H is not, he's brought people in before, and then it's been like, okay, cool. What are we doing with him? And it doesn't seem like he's got a plan, but he's a long gamer. He may not get to it right away, but eventually he gets back around and he'll get to it, to whatever he's got planned for you. I don't know what the plan is with Sheamus, though.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why, but it does. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him and Drew McIntyre together, even if it's just a really brief, just so we can watch them beat the hell out of each other. I could see kind of that.
But Drew's on his own thing right now with Punk and trying to get the world heavyweight title back. So it's like that doesn't even make sense anymore.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know.
Unless Gunther, unless he's just wanting just hey, let's throw down at Clash at the Castle. Like, I mean, is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
just beat the hell out of each other.
That's a possibility. You mentioned Sami Zayn. He defended the IC title, won his match against Chad Gable, and then Chad Gable turns heel, attacks Sami Zayn. So it looks like that's probably the match we will see, I'm guessing, at Backlash in France.
That would make a ton of sense. Yeah.
After that, because I think it'd be a great feud, I don't see Sami Zayn dropping the title just yet. Who does Sami Zayn drop that title to? Is it?
I think it's Chad.
You think it is Chad?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is Chad. I think what I want to see out of these two is this devolve into like a bitter blood personal rivalry, almost like hatred, right? Like with the Intercontinental title being tied up in it. Like I would not be mad if we got like a Sasha Banks Charlotte type summer where they are just trading the title back and forth with each other until one of them finally emerges at the end of the summer. I think this would be a great time to get Chad that big win. It was such a great heel turn because Chad turned into the thing that he hated. Mm-hmm. Like Chad's whole redemption story was, you made my daughter cry with Gunther. Like, you beat me to a pulp in front of my family and made my daughter cry, and I'm going to get you back for that. And then Sammy stole his redemption. He stole his, in Gable's eyes, stole his redemption story. And he did what any master tactician would do after he lost to Sami Zayn, is he helped Sammy knock off Gunther because he thought he could come in and beat Sammy for the Intercontinental Championship. And then when it didn't happen, he snapped. And what did he do? He literally pulls Sammy out of the arms of his wife and gives him a German suplex and beats him up in front of his country,
Yeah.
in front of his family, and became the thing that he vowed revenge against. He became Gunther in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's just got to become the ruthless heel and take that step of just doing whatever it takes to get that Intercontinental Championship, because that's his precious. That's his Gollum moment. Is he's got to bite the fingers off of Sami Zayn and take the ring back, basically here. Do you like, by the way, that I've now used MCU and Lord of the Rings references on the show? I try to...
I'm impressed, and it's coming from a guy that has watched very little of the MCU and even less of the Lord of the Rings. So I'm very impressed.
But regardless, I think that's the angle. I think you put that match on a Backlash, you have Chad cheat to win. Maybe, maybe WWE gives us what we want because they're in the spirit of giving us what we want, and we get Gable and the Creeds together in this heel faction. Because that's the other interesting part of this is now what happens to the Alpha Academy, because Otis and Tozawa and Maxine don't really scream heel.
No.
Right? I think this would be the perfect opportunity to take Otis in a different direction. I don't think Otis is a heel necessarily. We've seen him as a heel, but maybe, you can get him back into being a solo baby face now. And it would be the perfect opportunity to get Maxine back in NXT where she needs to be right now. Getting her reps, developing, because she's just not ready to be a main roster superstar yet. And I commend her for, going out there and learning on the fly in front of the entire world. But she needs to be in NXT right now.
Yeah.
And Gable can move on and win the Intercontinental title, and he and Sammy can fight over that over the course of the summer, and maybe Sammy walks away with it by the time it's all said and done, and Chad has finally gotten his big solo run that he's always deserved, frankly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and what you mentioned about Alpha Academy, that was one of the first things popped in my head. Is like, okay, so now what? And I agree. Otis was a heel. I did not. It wasn't clicking.
Just don't shave his beard again.
Yeah,
please.
no, just let him be the lovable spark plug, fire plug that is Otis, and let him do that, and like you said, just let him have some fun. So he is Rick Ucchino. Read everything. I mean, I start my day every day reading the rumor roundup on Cageside Seats. So
there you go.
Catch everything. Read everything. Cagesideseats.com. Rick, I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna put you in the Rolodex, bring you on every now and again.
Look forward to it.
All the best to you. By the way, who did the Bengals pick in the first round in next week's draft?
Man, if who's a kid you would know out of Texas? Murphy, defensive tackle.
Oh, Malik Murphy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, or is it Miles? Miles?
No, it's Murphy. Malik Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, if he's there, I think that's the pick.
Okay.
If he's there,
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
They got to replace DJ Reader somehow.
All right, cool.
So,
Rick, I appreciate it, man. All the best to you, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks, Stu. Appreciate you, man.